these headphones seem to echo, so I'll be better off without them, but we'll start in like 60 seconds. And thank you, Dr. Word, for coming. Sorry about the schedule mix-up last time, and thanks for everybody. I see Tech and all you guys from Tilix. This will be fun. Hey, Makina.
What's up, dude? I just made my room into heaven. It's so fucking comfy and spacious right now, man. I was literally spending hours going through wires and items and shit, but damn, it's good right now.
That's so weird, bro. I was doing the same thing today. I was getting ready for a trip experience. And everything's spacious.
What are you tripping on?
No, it's not gonna happen today, but I was gonna smoke some D.
All right.
We gotta go to Peru for some D for sure.
No. And trivial extraction of a legal plant to buy.
Nah, man, the only place you gotta go is Peru for that. There's no other place on the planet that you can have them D. No other place.
Okay.
Your kitchen.
Hold on, guys. So we're going to start the event. So all I'm going to do is do a quick intro to the event, and then we'll just freestyle it from there. I think we can just wing it for this one. So whenever you're ready, Ainsof, should we summon the Craigbot as well?
I've never entered the command, so I'll just do it this time. Let's see how it goes.
You're going to summon the case. So when the Craigbot comes in, just let me introduce the podcast, and then we'll get started.
Works for me.
And you ready, Ainsof?
Yes, I am.
Whenever you're ready, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I'm entering the command. It's not working for some reason. So it's Craig, join, right? I'm doing it on the here. This is it, isn't it?
Not working now.
If that's not it, someone else do it, because I'm entering the command directly from the website. I copy pasted it. It's not working for some reason. Is it because I put a space? No way. Or did someone change the commands?
Yeah, there's no space, bud.
I got that from the fucking website, though. Is the bot down? Or the bot is down. Let me check.
Try doing that in the bot spam.
I did that in the bot spam. It didn't work as well. Weird.
Oh, she's
Ainsof, are you recording? Do we need the Craigbot, or is everything good?
Fine. Everything's fine.
I can also record too. Just why the heck not?
I'm recording.
We really don't need the Craigbot because Ainsof's thing works, and yeah, if you're recording as well, Mac, then fuck the Craigbot.
Yeah, there's one thing though. Einsof, the last recording we did on the CBD thing, then the marijuana and all that stuff, there was a lot of local noise from your microphone, I believe.
Really?
I think that was like just getting picked up. Yeah, it was like I think there were personal conversations there too. Like I couldn't really pick up, but there was some stuff. So
I have to fix that,
yeah,
but I will have to do it for the next episode.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you right now before we start recording, so you have that in mind.
Are you on OBS Studio?
Yeah.
Okay. If you have that window open, at least from time to time, you should be able to see the two bars. One of them being your local input, and you can see if there's like something going on there that needs temp muted. Anyway, go ahead.
Right,
So we're ready to go, Ainsof? Okay, and are you guys getting echo? Just give me a test. Matt, can you say something and tell me if it's echoing through my mic?
I'm saying something. It is echoing.
Okay, so I can either use my headphones or my speaker, but I think either one will cause an echo. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about that. I don't have the proper headphones, so the best, as long as nobody talks when I'm talking, there'll be no echo. So just try and be Hello and welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. I'm Shogun. Please do come to the Roundtable Discord server. You can find us through the conspiracy tag on Discord. We're on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, channel, etc. We've got the website, but most of all, join us on the Discord server. You can find everything else in RT Recorded and RT Media. So that being said, today's a special event where we're doing a partnered and co-hosted event with the Tilex think tank with my old friend Dr. Weird and his comrades from that server. So without further ado, I'm just going to turn this over as sort of a freestyle, open discussion, open format here, and we'll see in which direction people feel like going.
I don't appreciate the word of the use, comrade. That's some commie talk right there.
Yeah, I knew you were going to call me on that.
Yeah, well, it's Joe, so it doesn't matter.
Hi, Dr. Weird. Thank you for coming and welcome. Thank you to the Tilex think tank members. So basically, what do you guys have on your mind?
Corona chain, for one. It's been at the top of the news for the whole week.
The stoics and long-term implications.
Yep.
Yeah, Corona chain. So the problem is that so much of the global manufacturing has shifted to China that this is going to cause a major disruption in supply chains, which will absolutely, at least temporarily, probably long term, if Corona Chan, or what is that? It's the COVID-19 Chinese coronavirus. So if COVID-19 is a bioengineered weapon of mass destruction, which is looking like it is, because there's a lot of P shuttle insertions from Ebola, swine flu, avian flu, West fever, and various other viruses. They basically, whoever created this thing, we know that it's like because of the P shuttle insertions. Basically, they created the cell, to make a Dragon Ball Z reference. They created the cell of viruses.
So it's got all of the Z
there's a
fighters
graphic.
essentially. There's like a string of Ebola. We're talking about when the RNA was sequenced. Basically, there were strings that are indicative of them being pulled from other viruses.
I just
other
posted
novel viruses.
Yeah, I posted a research paper on that in the chat if you want to look at it.
Or if they could be pulled up on the stream, that'd be even better.
Yeah.
But I think, like, look, this thing, it causes us to see the true nature, the true colors of our government at times. And so I just wanted to get your guys' take on, did you ever think that the United States would do centralized planning? Because look at what the CDC has done with, like, pretty much all medical supplies. Go to your local store and see if you can find gloves or, a mask, those, like, normal things that they say won't help you, but they need 300 million masks so they can protect their healthcare professionals. But they don't protect you. But they need them. Any thoughts?
Well, it's very hypocritical. It's a two-faced talk, which we get a lot. So a lot of authoritarian regimes become very hubristic, even at the lower levels, let alone at the high levels. And because they're used to everything just going their way, if they say nothing is wrong, then nothing is wrong, except that that's not true. So they end up getting drunk on their own spoiled wine of self-importance. And then by the time they realize what's happened, oh no, it's too late. And so, yeah, it's...
I'm sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but did you just say Trump is an authoritarian regime?
No, I was talking about China.
Okay, yeah, totally. But I mean, I never really thought that I'd see something as close to centralized planning of the economy from, from our government. It seems like we are definitely picking biotech as a winner sector. That being said, they're not shipping out a cure or a vaccine, right? They said, oh yeah, the first shipment just went out. Well, like, how would they have gotten it so quickly? No, they're actually shipping out other antivirals, like, for other viruses. And it's not actually just a shotgun method of, like, maybe it'll stick. There are actually strings of a lot of these viruses, including yellow fever, inside of Corona Chan. If, this abstract and paper are to be believed. Data Void, did you ever get a source on those, or is he here?
Yeah, no, it's in the general. It is scientifically proven research paper. This was done. It is 100% proven. It's speculatory. They know for a fact the HIV are proper insertions. They know these are the insertions
from the scarring, right? Can you go and talk a little bit about that?
So what happens when it's called P shuttle insertions? When you do those with specifically with RNA, you get something called protein scarring, where around that DNA segment, you have irreversible scarring that you can't avoid when you do these insertions. And
even
then
when the virus replicates another cell of itself that wasn't inserted.
Yeah, because it's a hereditary. The scarring becomes ingrained in the DNA. But yeah, all cases of coronavirus, looking on the RNA under microscopes and stuff, have shown this protein scarring, making it, it is edited in one way or another. There is no doubt about that.
All right, very interesting. Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not the one running the show here, but I'd like to sort of stay away from the more mainstream things that have been talked to death about this thing. Let's try and get a little esoteric. So, let's talk about projected scenarios. That seems like a pretty safe territory where we can roam in a wide area.
The biggest thing is a lot of companies. So depending on how bad it disrupts the supply chain. But if Chinese manufacturing grinds to a complete halt, and if it basically does a black plague and wipes out about 13% or so of the population or more, then what will happen is we're going to see a lot of localization. And this actually isn't a bad thing. A lot of technocrats just say, "Oh well, put it wherever it's cheapest." Right?
So it's the death of the global economy, is what you're saying.
By the way,
it's a death to globalization, to hard-nosed globalization. Because here's the thing: when we look at data storage, they follow what's called the 1-2-3 rule, and it's like, the 3-2-1 rule, which is 3 separate locations and 2 different formats with another backup or so. I forget what the 1 stands for, right? So they do this because if you lose one data center, if that's your only data center, you've lost everything. So of course you have to have a distribution of the distribution of your services for redundancy and resiliency. Well, we've done the exact opposite of that when it comes to manufacturing, including manufacturing of high value, very important things like microprocessors, food, even, vaccines, antiviral masks in this case, like everything,
Yeah.
metal products.
This is the case of the iPhone, especially.
Yeah.
You can't have that without marginal cost coming way down, and you only do that by mass producing.
Yeah, but by the way, for everyone's information,
it's fine. You can still have a distribution of mass production, because one plant can, you can design a plant to produce one model of thing. You don't, right now they're housing the production of multiple products under one roof, and they don't really get economies of scale's benefits too much from that. The economies of scale only is really applicable for one type of product. And if you just house another product being manufactured under the same roof, you don't really get that much of economies of scale's benefit.
So like a bubble or a society of separate bubbles, or what is this going towards? Like how, yeah.
Well, what this is going towards is decentralization, because as things like 3D printing, rapid prototyping, and just-in-time manufacturing really starts to kick off, is going to start localization of things, which is going to offer better resiliency and redundancy in terms of the effectiveness that it can deliver consumer products and the reliability of your economic systems and your companies and the things that your company depends on. Let's say tires, right? Most tires now, with the exception of like high performance racing or off-road tires, with the exception of niche tires, most tires are now manufactured in China. So if there's a disruption in the supply chain, how are people supposed to get, how's the trucking industry supposed to get new tires? It becomes very, very problematic if there's one little disruption in the supply chain when you centralize global manufacturing in one country.
Well, I wanted to say earlier, for everyone's information, the U.S. is already experiencing medical shortages, and most hospitals are having to, cut back on the use of morphines and stuff due to China.
What about
not
personnel
producing it
shortages? Because even before things got bad, we already know what kind of shifts they're making the interns pull. You know what I mean? And when you have to work on no sleep, no sleep's one of the most dangerous things. This is a totally separate topic, but what do you think's worse? Drowsy driving or drunk driving?
Drowsy driving is way worse.
It's 10 times more fatal, because you're not going to pick your foot up off the accelerator. Drunk, you'll just respond late. Drowsy driving, yeah. So, but this isn't just something that if you're asleep, you're bad. Also, drowsy, being awake and not really with it, that's also bad. If we're talking about surgeons, yeah, dude, they're way more prone to mistakes, and they're not going to have the time to sleep. They're not going to have the time. Yeah, they're not going to be able to address these problems effectively. But it's the logistics network of the globalism that's detracting. I do think that coming together with other of our species as a whole is good in at least two instances that I can think of, providing for the common defense against other similar species and, mitigating viral threats,
Yeah, well,
So-
I mean, there's a lot of factors going on here, but the ramifications, both immediate and long term, are going to be quite profound if the COVID-19 virus is as bad as it can be.
Well, we can't even be honest with each other though, is about it. On the government level, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago when you were seeing like people in high government positions talking amongst themselves, not our government, but other governments in like Europe, just saying, we can't take these numbers literally. We have to just do worst case scenario prepping. And those are the ones that it seems like it kind of skirted around because it funneled through all of the don't worry, globalism, diversity is our strength entry. And it looks like it went straight through down into Africa. And I don't know. I think that a lot of it has to do with cities and indoor spaces, right? Because when things are more spread out, it seems like it's slower to spread. What's up, Patriot?
Correct.
We have a
There's just-
medical professional here now.
There's a lot of error to go wrong. Even if 1% of the U.S. population got sick, that'd still be 3.2 million people. And according to the American Hospital Association, there's only about 792,000 hospital beds available. So it could very easily start to fill up hospitals and cause pandemonium.
I mean, people will find auxiliary space. I think this is going to decimate prison populations. I don't think everybody who's in prison currently deserves to die. There are probably some who do, and we should probably not waste all the money in the world, kicking the can down the road on that, and we're, I don't know. I don't really like absolutist or authoritarian regimes, but like if they're going to fucking do that thing, if they do have the right to fucking take the life from a person, they should fucking get it over with. And the ones who they're not going to do that to, they should find a way to make them pay that contributes back to society, not like picking up trash down the road. You know what I mean? Just if you're going to bring someone back in the fold, do it fully. If you're going to eject somebody, then do it fully. We live in a society. But yeah, anyway, that problem's kind of fucking not a big deal because they're just like, the sickness is just going to go in and kill everybody indiscriminately. Well, not everybody. It's like Thanos, right? And when we talk about deaths, we talk about, from the vantage point of the kill rate, right? Which I think went from 2.8% or something along those lines to something like 7%.
It's 7.6%.
But that's only saying people who will die of water in their lungs, right? Of the first round of getting this virus from a quote really bad cold. What about those who will starve or die of thirst or supply chain interruptions or they this is also going to overburn our medical infrastructure.
Yeah. That's not even accounting for the reinfection rate that we're seeing. Wuhan's reporting almost all of their quote unquote cured people are getting reinfected en masse.
Well, and do any of them still have their pets alive?
No.
This is probably going to kill everybody's pet. They're not. This is heartbreaking. Everybody's got a family member or themselves who needs insulin. This is this is like something that requires the supply chain. It's almost like a life support in a way. There's tons of diabetics. Thanks Pepsi, right? Can I actually blame them for bribing the scientists?
Well, it's everybody acts in their own best interest, and that typically people's best interest comes at the detriment of others all too often. And most people aren't interested in developing symbiotic associations and relationships because that takes work and time. They would rather shaft other people and run off.
Well, in terms of protecting people's best interests, a lot of people think they're going to be able to hold on their stonks all the way through this. Like, times are going to get really hard. There might even be some bullshit inflation shit that happens, some fucking Zimbabwe shit. And you got to be in a fucking position to deal with that, sitting on the stoinks. This may be like the last week that you're really able to get like divest from that position. You're going to have to accept some level of losses, because that wasn't a real evaluation of the market. That was a bubble. That was just printed money. Anyway, I don't want to get too economical with it. Let's try and stay on Corona Chan. So shame on me.
Oh, I mean, no, this is directly associated because a large aspect of the things that are happening are going to be, especially immediately, it's going to be economic, not necessarily.
Well, yeah, look at just this week what the gouging is on face masks on like things like eBay, and they're actually banning sellers from Amazon. Like you're not allowed to sell your normal product.
Yeah, a $17 mask on Amazon is now going for $256 on average.
Well, their actual sellers of the thing must raise their price, or they simply just get bought out at an undervalued rate, and that's not fair to them. So they if they don't want to get banned from Amazon and lose their ability to sell everything, they just need to say this item is not available. They just need to like literally take that whole item down, because Amazon's is. I mean, we talk about how Google and Amazon they act as a government, right? And you're like, well, how? And this is a perfect example: is they're applying market regulation.
Well, what's happening is Amazon is just losing all the percentage cut that they normally get from selling products, because, like you said, the sellers are just saying not available and then posting it on eBay. So eBay doesn't give a fuck.
Well, I mean, so like here's the thing: Amazon, Google. Like they wanted to prevent another, like you saw the memo, right? They want to prevent another 2016. They don't want Trump elected again. But do they really want Bernie in there? I think once they realize that Bernie is going to pull the lever on eattherick.exe, like that's seize the means, that's seize the corporations, that's the logistics network of Amazon and the surveillance techniques of Google. And I hope I hope Google doesn't know about your search history, bro, because they'll fucking leverage that against you, once they're controlled by the government and the government wants to force compliance. If they want to do it through social means, that's the easiest way.
Well, so here's the thing, right? A lot of these corporations give to certain political interests, and it's very strange, right? We actually look at multi-billionaires and large multinational corporations giving money to the party that's supposedly anti-big business, because it's a two-faced rhetoric. Because what happens is they say, we're all for regulating the market and clamping down on big business.
So here's the big problem about corporations too, is that a lot of them are multinational, and it's a way for other countries can have influences on our election. And it's not even talked about really. It's the financial influence. Where did the money come from? Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing is that this actually allows for a very strange phenomena, because the party that claims to be anti-big business puts in all these regulations that helps big business by making it so difficult to break into the market. These businesses, these regulations are expensive.
They also want to protect the environment, and they also want to do this, and they also want to do that. So it's like the Pentagon Wars of policymaking.
Well, the problem with protecting the environment is it's all just lip service. Notice how every time somebody talks about protecting the environment, the solution isn't to build molten salt reactors. The solution isn't to drop the price of solar panels by finding use for thorium, i.e. MSRs. The solution is more authoritarianism. So the environmental argument isn't actually about the environment. They don't actually give a shit about the environment. What they really want to do is promote policies that bolster their power over other humans.
We'll see if they regulate things, then they can charge out the ass to send a person out there to make sure that you did the thing according to specification, and they get to pay a bunch of people to fucking do it. So they've created jobs. Like they have this whole committee, this oversight. So like, no elected official needs to do damage control if they make a bad decision in implementation. Ad hoc committees. That's the fucking bane of, look, it's time for our politicians to do their fucking job. If they think something's a really fucking good idea, they all need to fucking get together and decide how that idea is implemented themselves. And they need to own that mistake. And that may mean that they lose their positions. This is part of leading.
They want all the authority without the responsibility, which is
I don't know how we ended up here, said the driver.
Yeah, literally this. Well, but the driver is these ad hoc committees, and
Yes.
the driver is basically taking directions from a little radio receiver, and the politicians on the other side.
Well, they're
telling them where
not.
to
They're taking cues from their ego. So, like, look, you're an unelected guy who you've got a lot of fucking responsibility now. You've got a lot of decision making power, right? And some little fuckwit decides that he wants to do things his way. He's a smart little guy. He wants to do things his way. So, you know what? I don't care if you got any good ideas, guy. I'm the one with power. And they just fucking, that's the attitude of and we see this a lot of times on these Discord servers. Like, I won't even go to Discord servers, or I'll just leave. I'm not gonna name any servers. Like, obviously I'm still here, so it's not this one, but where the fucking they do this very same thing to you, this very self-important asshole that no one wants to listen to, you know what I mean? And that's what we're doing with our well, they can't be fired by like getting elected out, the people don't have any control over who's making that decision. That's really what the problem is.
And typically these bureaucrats, the problem with them is that they don't actually know what the fuck they're talking about. More often than not.
Sometimes they do.
A little bit.
Sometimes they get hired because, they're appointed by somebody who's like a family member or something like that.
Yeah, but even the ones that do, air quote, know what they're doing, professionals disagree with each other all the time. Even within the same industry. So you'll have you can have two nuclear engineers that vehemently disagree on what the best way to do that specific process is.
Oh yeah.
And they'll have their own reasoning and their own mathematical proofs. And bringing in a bureaucrat just means that he's going to play, even if he does know what he's talking about, he's just going to play favorites and put out his own bias. So the best way to go is to allow basically the technology to compete and see which one is really the best.
Yeah. I mean, how much do we really know anything? Like, even in our base understanding of physics, it's like all speculative. Anything past a certain point, or I would say even anything, like, once they start questioning Newton, like, how far back are you going to go? And, like,
all the way.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So every time that we reach this new hurdle of like, okay, our physics doesn't explain this new thing, it's like, fuck, dude, how much like base foundational shit is actually just a different, twist on that same idea, but it's what we found to be explanatory work at the time.
Well, the thing is that we already have evidence that essentially disproves the Lambda-CDM model, and very strong evidence at that. And I won't get into the details here, but at least
that's fine. We're getting far afield of Corona Chan anyhow. So immediate spread. We have the first death, right? We have lockdown in several counties. The first state is on lockdown. Washington State.
Oh, Washington State's on lockdown. Nobody can leave the state.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Washington State. There's no lockdown.
Well, hold on. This is just today from the governor. So again, like, they're going to decide what that means, and we have no idea what they're going to do or not do. But yeah, he declared a state of emergency today. So I'm actually very interested to hear from you, and not to dox you, but how that ends up turning out over the next couple of days. I don't want it to happen in the state that I'm in, and I considered fleeing the state, not necessarily because I'm sick. I just don't want to be.
I have full mop gear.
Lockdown. You do? Nice.
This is the time that people always talk about that martial law might be implemented, and I think that is a very big risk. Back in 2006 when Katrina happened, the police started confiscating guns, and that was not the military, but still. This is the time everyone's been talking about for years. And it's going to be very interesting to see what actually happens when push comes to shove.
Does this have a Boogaloo tie-in?
I don't think so. Because if you couple a plague and then try to commit things like the mass stealing of personal property, now basically you've signaled to the people that you want to commit extreme acts of violence against them that they've
Well,
already stated very clearly that they're willing to revolt over. And then secondly, now they're going to die no matter what. So now you have a bunch of fearless fighters.
I guarantee you, when stores get empty, you're gonna have a lot of, what did you call it? The looting, looting by authority. Well, you're gonna have looting by Dindus for sure, for sure.
We're already seeing stores bought up in multiple counties.
I don't think you're going to see any boogaloo on the behalf of the government, but rather, if you see anything remotely close to boogaloo, it's going to have to do with citizens revolting against the lockdowns implemented by.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We're gonna have a repeat of.
It's going to be like what you saw in Katrina, right, where the government comes in, declares martial law, starts trying to herd people off into any place, whether it's legitimately for their own protection or whether it's from some, bit more subversive government actions, quote, for your own protection. It's really irrelevant. When people are desperate, hungry, scared, they're going to react negatively.
So how do you balance addressing the disease or addressing the coronavirus and also address overreaching authoritarianism?
Oh, I mean, ultimately, the way to address it from an individual perspective, the way to do it is survive somehow.
Well, so let me speak specifically to the question then. The government, in order to contain this, if that's what we eventually end up doing, will need to limit basic freedoms such as freedom of movement. Like, let's start
It's
there.
going to be very, very difficult in a country where everybody has bicycles and cars and an incredibly geographically
It's not
diffused
that
population.
keeps you that it makes it so you can go around your neighborhood, but like the main highways, like Route 66, like how many like roadblocks do they just need to set up?
A fuck ton, and I'll tell you why. Back roads access highways at so many intervals. Yes, the main choking points can be shut down. I guess that's a
The
pseudo form
interstates
of
is really like what they want to stop, though. I'm sure, like flights, that's all coming to a stop. Personnel trains.
You can make a cross-country trip without hitting the interstate once.
Really?
Yeah, I can verify that. I'm a truck driver. I mean, there's constant routes to get around the highway from when they close down the highway for major accidents. You
Yes.
have routes that go around those accidents. And
Yes.
just think of that, but you can essentially not touch the major highways and go.
Yeah. If you download the Waze app, you can enable a setting that makes it so it goes alternative routes and never goes on a main road.
Even Google Maps has that selectable function to say just no highways. But it makes these trips kind of unrealistic, especially in like a post-collapse where am I going to get gas kind of scenario. Yeah, I don't know. I think they may try to shut down some of these like main chokes. Like I said, Route 66. You know what I mean? The interstates. You know what I mean? They'll want to do checkpoints and they'll want to take people to quarantine zones. And people are going to scream and ree about concentration camps.
Yeah,
Watch.
By the way, there already were financially. By the way, Congress did pass, financial bills for quarantine zones for coronavirus. About when this shit was already popping off when it just began.
Yes.
They specifically out of urban areas. There's at least one team hired with military standard preparation for quarantines. These systems are already being set up since the second corona was released.
So it's super dangerous and it's super wasteful and super inefficient, but you can actually take used motor oil and you can boil it in an open pit fire until it's of a gasoline-like consistency, and then you can put it in your gas tank. It's incredibly
boil what?
I highly recommend against it, but it can be done if you absolutely need to.
Use motor oil. It's far better to utilize like an older diesel, specifically one that uses like a mechanical or rotary fuel pump. I've done it actually myself because like the diesel that I have, it dates back from like 92. It's a solid mechanical diesel. And yeah, dude, I actually, because of the garbage that they put in like the biodiesel bullshit they sell at the pump for modern catalytic diesel engines that utilize DEF, like actually using so-called black diesel, like recycled motor oil, recycled transmission fluid, is actually far better on my motor than anything I can buy at the pump.
Yep. Well, I mean, the point of the matter is that there's a bunch of alternatives, ways to garner liquid hydrocarbons to fuel any engine. Like you can even, if you really wanted to, you could actually convert a gasoline engine by reducing its, compression ratio to about 6-1, and then you can actually use straight crude oil in it. Incredibly dirty and incredibly inefficient.
So, breaking news alert. This one's coming from Achilles, our friend from down under. Let me drop this link in chat so people can see it. He said in a direct message to me, and this was kind of cryptic, Iran is boogin right now. I said, what that mean, Iran boogin?
Yeah,
so,
I
apparently hospital burned down for fear of coronavirus.
I can elaborate on that. So
Sure,
what happened?
go for it.
Yeah. So what happened is the Ministry of Health for Iran actually, quite ironically, caught coronavirus and died from it. I think today, actually, after giving a press conference that this was "quote unquote" a nothing burger.
Lol.
Yeah, and then what happened is due to Iran being somewhat of a turmoil, having a turmoil government system and having multiple revolutions, it's still in the people's minds as well. What you had is, since the unstable medical care, this panic going around, you're actually starting to have massive riots within Iran, and it's considered like revolution size.
So this is
activities
actually
going on there right now.
Perfect
It's
example
full
of why I
boom.
raised the question. How do you balance authoritarian government with fucking containing the virus? So you want to contain the virus, but you fucking make it so that people can't have peaceful resolution for their basic freedoms. What people would can say their God-given human rights, like freedom of movement. They're like, dude, push the American people and they may start booging. That's why I said, is there a tie-in? And it's not necessarily this side versus that side anymore. It's literally, the individual's right, But I think people will band together over this. But
They've also burned down 3 separate banks. They're burning down everything at this point.
Yeah. Okay, so looting on
Jesus.
personal property, or mostly just businesses and shit.
Mostly businesses and public infrastructure at this point, but we are starting to see full looting.
So yeah, that's it. Before I'm predicting they'll eventually hit neighborhoods and shit and fucking start raping all the women, in their own country. But
I'm sorry, where is this again?
Iran.
There's a link in chat of recorded event channel.
Apparently, yeah. So because of the poor health conditions and the poor hygiene in their bad medical facilities, corona spread there like a plague. A large amount of the population is already infected, and due to the asymptomatic variants, that is actually wide knowledge because they did press releases. People are freaking out, thinking they're already infected, and in my opinion, they're having the mentality of "fuck it all, I'm gonna burn this shit all down. I hate you all. It's my last day on earth" type mentality.
What's your take on the people who we're hearing about that say, I have it, I'm spreading it, I'm not going to tell you where I am type of shit? Like, are they just boys on the internet? Or are these just people who think they have the flu? Yeah, there's no way to stop.
We were seeing that in China.
So they're hopping on buses. Well, yeah, in China you've seen it, but there's videos, now people saying that they're doing it in the United States. And I
would not be surprised.
I can't link a post. We're just talking about edgy nerds that I've seen in chats, like StarCraft chat and all these other things. But
oh my god,
not a reliable source. But yeah,
part of it seems like people just trolling, but that there's a small chance this could. Okay, well, if this is true, then think about it from their perspective. They could get the coronavirus, get disillusioned with life, and just be like, "Fuck it, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna take everyone down with me because I'm lonely or something."
Here's my take on it. Like, a lot of people here have the flu or had the flu and think they're sick, and so they're like, worst case scenario. Like, there's something in their brain saying like worst case scenario. So they're like, you know what, maybe I am sick, and so they're like taking that attitude like fatalistically.
What about if a government actually, creates these agents, infects them on purpose and spreads them around as a weapon? It's like as a bioweapon. Maybe maybe the destabilization of certain areas are intentional and done by state actors.
You can't get infected inside a bunker if you don't come out.
I feel like this might be
You
used
can
by.
if it's airborne and your air isn't biofilm.
Yeah, it's pseudo-airborne.
This could possibly be used by terrorists to create, to terrorize. I mean, people have terrorized people with lesser means, and this is something very dangerous.
Dangerous and easy to obtain. Very easy to obtain. I mean, the virus is, if you want to go to China and get some,
Think about
and then go back. You know what I mean? I mean, if I was a terrorist, I'm not. I'm just saying, though, if I was, like, an easy method of causing mass damage is literally to get infected and then go
so that's the thing.
travel really fast to many places, especially hot zones and airports and shit like that, and get as many people as I want infected, and that would actually lead to a shit show.
So that's
I'm gonna make a quick comparison with the mortality rates. So the Black Death had a mortality rate of 6.2. We're getting reports of coronavirus having a mortality rate between 7.6 and 18%.
I also want to admit that I was absolutely completely fucking wrong about this virus. I thought it was like no big deal as well, like a lot of people.
Well, we're not shutting down schools. Like, we're making the improper response. That's like the main reason. It could have been nothing if we even if it was serious, if we did the right things.
Yeah, and actually in Japan, I forgot to tell you about this. In Japan, they've shut down all all schools. They've actually forced a lot of companies to postpone work at this point. This happened, I think, 2 days ago.
No gerbs.
Yeah.
No stores open even, right?
Yeah, nothing. They've closed down everything.
So for people in the U.S., we don't really have a place to run to. So when shit does hit the fan, what are we supposed to do?
I hope you have your Second Amendment in full effect.
It's either you have a substantially good, stay in your house, quarantine yourself, make sure you're the least likely to get infected. That's one possible scenario. Or you could go, due to America being very, there's a lot of rural areas.
I don't want my cat to die, so I'm on full lockdown unless it's like a mission to go get a ton of weed, because people are saying that weed kills it, but if
oh my god, people are stupid.
If weed doesn't kill it, then for sure psilocybe cubensis will fucking wreck that bitch.
That's slightly true, actually, because smoke, a substantial amount of smoke in the air will kill the particulate matter in bodily fluids, because it's pseudo-airborne. It's not.
Ration
it can't survive the smoke.
But
So what is the pseudo? What is? Let's talk about the actual effectiveness of the spreading airborne wise. What does that mean exactly? Is that the kind of thing where if you're on a
I'll explain. So it's not technically airborne. It's so resistant on surfaces and in the air that essentially it has the effect. So a normal virus, say if someone coughs, if it's not airborne, it'll die within a few seconds to a few minutes in that
because of drying out or whatever.
Yeah. Coronavirus, if you cough, or maybe there's a plume of, I don't know, some of your bodily fluids for some reason or another, that instead of a few minutes, it'll stay on that surface in that air for about a week.
Well, so quick,
it has the same effect.
So what's the
sneeze it up to 3 to 5 meters, and then also if it were in a pile of fecal matter, then a gaseous plume would rise from that fecal matter and up to 200 meters in every direction.
So what would you guys say about windows on like second story and third story buildings? Keep them closed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't drive down the street with your windows open on your car either.
Don't have your air on either. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, and it's not only inhaling it. If it lands on your skin contact with bodily fluids is just as infectious as inhaling it.
Is that because it grows and it goes into you, or is that because of...
Is this one of those things that we're just going to have to admit that we're all going to get infected at some point? And
yes.
It's just the severity of it if we do.
Actually, there's a meme for this. I'll drop it in recorded events. So on the levels of preparedness, we have 4 stages. Hopefully it doesn't take too long to find
If you have a level 3 hazmat, you're probably not going to get infected, though. Level 3 or above.
So first, we have the Virgin gas mask. The Virgin surgical mask, I'm sorry. Right? And we can see what that option gives. Versus the Chad gas mask. Versus the Giga Chad plague doctor. Versus this THAAD spacesuit. Okay? So we drew anime waifus on that spaceship. Elon Musk should just take some for sure, not sick people to Mars. Let's just peace out on some niggas. Let PewDiePie drive it.
Okay, this is something that I've been hearing about. Trump made a claim that the coronavirus could die to warm weather, and I know the flu kind of dies off during the warm weather, but since this was made in a lab, could this be possible? Or is this just a false prophet?
Yeah, no, it's shown no evidence of that whatsoever.
That's the thing, and it has so many P shuttle insertions from so many viruses. It can mutate in so many different ways. It's like I said, it's
Well, so that's the thing.
the cell of viruses.
We're gonna
I have in me
multiple
the DNA
vectors.
of all the viruses. Blah, 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 blah.
Well, yeah, I think you're absolutely right,
hold on,
Dr. Weird. We're gonna see mutations in a bunch of different directions, especially if we see global spread, because then that's 8 billion people with several million iterations within each person. Chances of it making some directional shift one way or the other in terms of the actual code
It's
being
like
executed.
it's like a pronged attack. It could mutate and show more of the Zika symptoms, where you get mutated births due to these effects, or it mutates and you get HIV, where 10 years later, the HIV RNA becomes more prevalent. It's just a Swiss Army knife. It can mutate in any different ways.
I think the two distinct patterns that we'll see, the two diverging paths, will be more lethal and less lethal versions of this.
Agreed.
Right? So more incubating versions that'll keep it going, and ones that just are finish him.
Well, basically, it contains strands from HIV, influenza, avian H5N1, avian H1N1,
No.
human CMV.
I think it's the rural communities need to fucking not let in outsiders. That's really the only hope, and every rural community may have already be fucked.
And by the way, there's a lot more HIV inserts than any other insert. So there's basically a ratio of 3 HIV inserts to any of the other inserts. There's a lot more HIV inserts in the RNA than anything.
Where is that data coming from?
The research article I posted earlier.
All up. Oh, do you have the whole article? I have the screenshots from it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's the 3 things I have.
Right
Dr. Weird posted it 6:15 today and recorded an event also.
Yeah, it'll show you a ratio in the lower part of the research article.
Has there been any big theories about, since this is engineered in a lab, of why this was released, or if this was an accident?
I'm on the on the boat of they did make it, but I think the release was an accident due to incompetence. It's fucking communist China. They're not known for being competent in a lot of these type of situations on containment.
Is there going to be repercussions for those people that developed this? I mean, they're killing many people.
The one that they're blaming it on is already dead.
Yep. Yeah, the woman, what is it? Yeah, a woman, I think 2 months before this happened, stole the bioweapon, basically. It's like the base of it they used to do it. She stole the RNA base from Canada. She was, caught and extradited to China. But she has gone missing and presumed dead.
I see. And who was developing this bioweapon?
The Wuhan Institute for Virology.
Didn't they buy a previous, earlier version of it or something like that?
Yeah,
basically, the Spike module is what they bought from the United States.
They bought the Spike model first, and then they tried to steal the Canada version as well.
Holy shit! This is some freaky stuff. People are actually creating shit like this. Why?
Like I said, it's the cell of viruses, and Corona Chain is going to reach her final form soon.
Yeah,
Why would someone make this?
Because from a warfare perspective, if you can design something that meets many of these things, so you have a long incubation period, but you are still shedding the virus during that incubation period, that has the ability to reinfect someone and has a grave chance of causing death or severely incapacitating the enemy. And also, now they didn't get the part of it. If you can sort of infect an enemy, right, have it sweep through their population, kill off, 20, 30, 40, 50% of their population and leave the rest largely incapacitated for, say, something like a month. And then, say, 6 months after you've conducted this warfare operation, like most of the people and or virus is dead and it's neutralized, you can then sweep in and invade a country with little to no opposition.
Isn't it against like some form of international
Oh, it's
law?
highly against most international laws. This goes against, but it's not stopping them from doing it, right? Using nuclear weapons is against international law, but there are still massive stockpiles of nuclear weapons in so many countries.
When it comes to international law, the Geneva
not to mention
Conventions
breeder reactors,
specifically
which
say
are
that it's
capable
illegal.
of manufacturing more nuclear weapons.
Oh, dude, these guys that are doing this shit do not care about international law like at all. So
You know what?
Well, there's technically nothing stopping them from doing.
You can't have international law without an international government because there's no way to enforce it. So what we see is selective enforcement by
Well, they
us,
also
the
ban
hegemon.
lasers too, which I think is really stupid.
Think about all these weapons the military uses: nukes, bombs, guns, nerve gas. They all do the same thing.
Drones.
They kill the population, and it's on. Now, this virus isn't going to be around forever. My prediction is it's meant to come in, infect the population, kill them all off, and then the virus just dies with the host, hopefully. I mean, this is how every other weapons work.
As someone stated earlier, right? Like China isn't exactly known for their competence, especially when it comes to design. And this, from all outward appearances, does not appear to be a finished by.
So it could just go out into fade out in insecurity, but
Or
more
worst
likely
case scenario, it goes out into the greater wide world and just stays there.
I left a bioweapon in the toilet a minute ago.
I actually wanted to use that as a segue. We did not go over the general effects of coronavirus yet, and I think we should. So, as stated, it does have an incubation period, which is never seen. If it's if you're non-symptomatic and it's an incubation period, we don't actually have a natural variant of that in any biology sense. So
actually, we do.
You do?
Herpes is like that.
Yeah.
Herpes can shed virus while it's in an incubation phase, but it's actually like you have some of the virus particulate coming alive, so to say. I'm not a virologist. I don't know what the appropriate term would be, but herpes, both oral and genital, can be shed while having no symptoms, essentially while it's waking up or dying out.
That wasn't necessary.
So what happens is if you get coronavirus, there's a 14 to almost month long incubation period. You're still asymptomatic. You're extremely infectious. People estimate, there's numbers estimating you're supposedly asymptomatic carrier is on average infecting 14 to 40 people a day. After that stage, you have when it actually starts to awaken the onset. You have, cold-like symptoms progressing very fastly into flu to severe flu, where the person, their lungs start having trouble breathing. You have a liquid feeling in the lungs. You have, quote-unquote, the worst flu symptoms you've ever felt in your life. That's what a lot of people are saying. And then that's the time when you start getting brain damage and put on intubation. And the reason actually why people are, why it's reported, which is actually true, that you can't develop a resistance to it is because corona puts your immune system into a state of shock where it floods your lungs with white blood cells and does not produce helper T cells anymore. So your body cannot produce proteins to, fight off and make antibodies for the disease. So that's what's happening. Even if you do survive this run, what you have is a reinfection after that causes brain damage. That's why you're seeing a lot of people falling over and having seizures, because at that point your body's so stressed out and due to,
You cut out there?
I'm freaking out, by the way.
Because you're too high. Smoke more weed.
No, I'm super fucking high, but yeah, I'm clear-headed. Yeah, you cut off whoever was speaking for like the longest time. So
well, let's talk about that next. Like, go get supplies. What is the minimum? But Data Void, do you want to wrap that up? Are you back?
Yeah. Where did I cut off at?
About 10, 20 seconds ago.
Like, what was my last thing, so I can properly say what I was going to say.
I'm thinking about now, like, shopping markets in America soon because first death confirmed.
You were saying seizures. People were falling down having seizures and brain damage. I think that was the last.
Oh, right. When it attacks the other organs, that part.
Yes. Okay. So what happens is your body can't determine after a point of infection, after the second reinfection, it can't determine healthy cells from infected cells. And so what happens, your body attacks itself, its brain stem. That's why you're seeing people falling over and having seizures, as well as reports of infertility and permanent intubation, because your body actually damages its own lungs and causes permanent damage.
What's the statistics on long-term intubation?
It's pretty high. It's like 40%.
Cause brain damage, correct?
The brain damage is low, but the intubation, you're gonna have to be on that ventilator for the rest of your life, is something like 40 to 30%.
Can you contact this through skin contact, or do you have to like breathe it in, or like go through the mucous membrane?
Just
skin contact.
It's like a nerve agent. If it gets on your skin, you're infected.
And it can be aerosolized.
Wow.
See, this is where people are so fucking ignorant and jump the gun. Oh, I'm gonna wear a mask. It's gonna help.
Yes, why not? Why would you not wear a mask? If
It
you must
actually
go out
will
and wear a
help.
mask, yeah. The
It
reason
scared
that
people off.
the reason that you saw the propaganda of you don't need a mask was because they want all of the masks. CDC is stockpiling every mask. They're not allowing shipping. That was like, whoa.
You want a scary mask.
You want at the very
like
least
some
Giga
fucking
Chad
Nazi
Plague
mask.
Doctor. And if you're actual Chad, then Thad Spacey.
I've been testing out this theory over the past few days. I went into the store and I wore a dust mask, and not a lot of people were around me. But then I wore the respirator, and then absolutely no one wanted to walk near me. So if you can scare people to not even want to come around you, you're probably safer off than just not wearing a mask at all. I mean, you got to out crazy them. I mean, it's psychology.
Big brain moves.
I mean, do you want to be next to someone wearing a mask? No, that guy's fucking sick.
I am the man.
Is it possible for the government to like do an efficient like extermination of this disease, like trying to use technology to destroy it airborne? I don't know.
Dude, drop
Utilize
the
or
fuel
whatever.
air bombs all over the cities that get infected, like in Outbreak. You seen the beginning scene of Outbreak? Google it. It's really funny. I mean, not funny, but
Yeah, I'd say it's next to impossible to properly combat this virus at this point. It's just going to burn through populations.
But I mean, if it is as infective and as resilient and as contagious as we can see the way it is right now, and at the rate of mutation and the mortality rate, I mean, at this rate, it's going to infect everyone.
what if it's just a lull flu and they're just all fucking with us real bad and just putting the flu everywhere?
You either eradicate this or it's going to infect everyone. This is the kind of shit that it is. It has to be eradicated. There is no other way. It is that or we're all going to get it, and whoever survives, survives. I mean, that's probably going to happen. But again, the brain damage, the second, symptoms and all that shit, that's not something we should be content with. We should really plan for exterminating
What we need to do.
Mac, what they were talking about, whether that was going to be, was that it would just be like the flu and cold, and that it's cyclical around the planet. We have seasons, and it just slowly moves around the planet with the seasons that it moves because it lives in those temperate weathers.
This is the time we need to stock up on fever reducers like Tylenol and Advil. So if we do get sick, at the very least, we can try contain ourselves at home.
Treating symptoms of any virus actually can increase your survival rate just due to your body having more resources to properly fight the disease. So
now
that will be slightly effective.
Has there been any case of people being infected by it and not having brain damage afterwards?
Yes.
Okay, and why are they different from those that did get brain damage?
Well, from my understanding of what I read, right, they're talking about the casualty rate for this is only about 4 times higher than the normal flu, right, which is pretty severe for a flu family virus, but it's kind of serious for pretty much any virus, other than the truly horrible shit. But there are realistically like 80 to 90% of the people who actually get this get out with nothing worse than the worst flu they have ever had. But because of the reinfection capability of Corona Chan, that's the scary part, because we really don't know. From my understanding, those that get reinfected are actually at a significantly higher chance of having damage. And there were some I was hearing from out of China. Granted, how well can you actually trust anything coming out of China? But I was hearing reports of people essentially like recovering from the virus, feeling super good, and it's like, holy shit, I've been down on my feet for like a month. Well, it's time to get back to work and shit. And they try to go to work, and like a day or two later, they fucking die, and they have the seizures and shit. That's what I was reading.
Is that the kind of thing that benzodiazepines could prevent?
HIV medicine actually prevents, the reinfections, because the HIV combats the effects of your immune system not being able to create helper T cells. So the only thing effective at the moment is HIV medicine.
Is HIV medicine the kind of thing that does anything bad itself?
Oh,
yeah, it really fucks with you.
Destroy your
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Just a lot. Another thing I was thinking that could help out with this, it was brought up to my attention by a nursing friend of mine. It's a medical grade air filtration system. They sell them on Amazon anywhere from $120 to like $200, and it filters out a lot of the particles. It's sort of like a dehumidifier. It's just purifies the air. I don't know, it might be a gimmick, but it's something that's worth trying if you have a little bit of extra money. And we have the time right now where you can still order stuff online.
What about after it mutates? As Technique was pointing out, if it spreads to millions, billions of people, there's going to be many copies of the virus, therefore increasing the chance of mutation exponentially, essentially. So we're not even prepared to deal with this current strain. What about the other crazy ones that come out? We have to eradicate this.
In terms of numbers, think of this. If we're only talking about one pass, which obviously this is making multiple passes, but that makes the math messy. So let's do this easy mode estimation, right? So 8 billion times hundreds of millions of iterations of the virus in circulation, potentially, over the course of the lifespan of the virus replacing itself.
Yeah, no, it's crazy the amounts of copies there will be. That's why I'm saying it's either this or us. We got to deal with it. We got to exterminate it. There has to be a way to exterminate it. We have to do hard quarantines in large zones.
This is like a shit test from nature, right? Can you come together as a species and fight another species? Basically, we are the mammals are the environment, the biome of this virus.
I mean, it's not exactly. It didn't come from nature, though. I mean, this was a bioweapon designed to be this fucked up on purpose, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But humans
so
are.
You gotta look for the order out of chaos here, right? So there's many things that would come from a global epidemic like this, and then it be revealed that it is a bioweapon. There's gonna be hell of a regulatory process put into place for every country and all this stuff. It's gonna create an entire wing of the UN just to manage these kinds of even science projects, if you will.
Well, the UN already has a wing dedicated to shit like this. It's called the World Health Organization.
This is gonna tie into NATO type stuff. This is not gonna be just some little schmammy-pammy Bill and Melinda Gates funded bullshit. They're gonna get fucking military men to fuck with this shit now.
No, they already do. They already do, and it still got out because basically, when you're messing with engineered bioweapons, you're dancing with the devil.
That's what I'm talking about. It's going to be in the level of atomic weapons testing type stuff, and they're going to have an incredible lockdown.
They're atom bombs anyway. Countries have sovereignty. The UN has a paper tiger and can't enforce anything.
Okay, but it's going to be used as a mechanism for argument, discussion, etc.
Did all the treaties about nuclear bombs prevent North Korea from getting nukes? No.
Dude,
no, but it stopped.
I'm leaving my black lights on 24/7.
It's exactly as Technique pointed out. The only way we can have an international court system, or international law system, and enforce it, we need an international military that's actually superior, by the way, to all the other ones. That's essentially the only way international law.
Yeah, so what I was trying to insinuate is that it would create a more push towards this agenda of world order.
No,
I like NSA
because you can't have a central, like the idea that you can just rule with military forces gone. Because okay, let's say for the sake of argument, just for the sake of argument, that the UN creates the centralized military force that's mightier than all other nation states,
there it is,
except the nation state that has 10,000 nuclear warheads with no real conventional military, and just says, "Hey, we see a single UN blue helmet on our soil, we'll kill everyone. Bye." What
You
then?
don't get what I'm saying when I mean order out of
do get what
chaos.
you're
The
saying.
things that are going to change as a result of this are going to be those high-end regulatory measures taken by military and things like that to put in
These are
processes about.
unenforceable.
Well, but they will. But that's what I mean. It will be a
measures
weapon. It will be a tool used to do so.
But no, it won't, because even if they put it in,
They needed an example, is what I'm saying, like coronavirus, to have to say, okay, no other corona's going to come. I'm going to come invade you for this or some shit.
Dude,
Except
problem,
that you
reaction,
can't do that.
problem, reaction, solution doesn't happen. Like as Dr. Weir is saying, it cannot happen in this situation because, again, as we pointed out, there is no method of enforcing it. Every country can do whatever the fuck they want in their secret military labs, and there is no one, and I'm serious, no one that can tell them no. They can't.
Exactly. When did
With all the STEM stuff and all the other genetic modification things happening, they're trying to get regulatory stuff. Like right now we have, what is the company that makes all the regulations and things like that? They push it for like wireless signals and all these bands and stuff like that for technologies. It'll be something like that.
That's what. Okay, I guess the stream's over, guys. I'm going back.
Okay, see you later, buddy. Well, thank you guys. We can continue as long as we want, regardless.
Yeah,
I
keep
think
going.
this has the potential to start off another conflict. Not saying World War III, but maybe another Cold War or another Vietnam type scenario. I don't know. Just the destroying of the supply lines. Supply lines leads up a lot of countries for invasion.
Yep, and there's no way other countries in Warsaw positions aren't going to take that opportunity.
So I just wanted to thank everybody. I'm going to go join Dr. Weird. But
okay, thanks, guys.
It's nice having
It was good to have you.
I'll continue if you guys
we'll
want.
have a part 2.
Yeah, anyone who wants to continue. Anyone who is here and has to go, thank you for coming. This is very interesting. We appreciate it. Peace.
Yeah. So
Thank you guys for your time, and just have a very good rest of your evening.
You as well.
Young Black has a beautiful voice. Can I hire you for voice acting at some point 5 years from now?
Yeah.
Good.
I'll do free right now since I'm a starving artist.
You don't have any problem with going out into outer space on a spaceship?
No.
Good. I need crew.
You're recruiting for space pirates? What?
Well, I have an idea for a TV series.
Well, tell us about the name of the nephew of the director of the movie with the Islamic guy. His name was like 9 syllables long.
You're talking about Malcolm McDowell's nephew, whose name is not Mosas, which is an African who's probably just doing a sketch. It's probably not his actual name. They're probably just making fun of YouTube. But the name you're thinking of, which I happen to know, it's Malcolm McDowell's nephew. I think his mother or father. One of them is a Briton. The other
Just say
one's...
the name.
No, I'm thinking about it. I'm starting up. It's like in winter when you're starting up a car. It takes a while to warm up the car so you can drive. But I grew up. No. It's Egyptian something, and it's
No, I don't care
British
anymore.
something.
I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. You failed. No one will ever know the name.
Oh, shut the fuck up, dude. It's Malcolm McDowell's nephew. You do not tread easily over the path of this great actor who played Dr. Bashir on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about.
Dude, his name. I will tell you his name now.
Or not.
I will tell you his name now. It's Sidish Al-Tahir Al-Fadil Al-Sidish Abdurrahman Muhammad Ahmed Abdel Karim Al-Mahdi.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. Well
yeah.
done.
I just had to remember it for a while.
Dude, I think I triggered Dr. Weird.
Jesus Christ, your fucking mic is hell screaming, bro.
Yeah, I muted that. Oh
Okay,
shit, that was bad.
I'm gonna make a branch back onto the coronavirus topic. So
Yes, Corona. I want.
Yeah, so the CDC. Yeah,
give me.
The CDC's been very incompetent on this. They've actually even been going against the testing kits at this point. So what happened with that is at the beginning of this event, they were sending out testing kits. These are the standard model testing kits for Corona that all other countries have been using. They've been reliable in almost all of the cases on testing accurately. What happened in the U.S. is a week or a week and a half into the coronavirus stuff, they started testing people, and they thought everyone they tested came back positive. Every single one they tested came back positive. And they're like, this month they assumed these products were defective and they retracted it. They, in my opinion, I don't know about that. I don't draw any conclusions, but now they're actually going around suing anyone under the guise of public health. So the CDC can, put a stranglehold on public information if they deem it to be a risk to the public mental health of any given social system. And so what we have happening is the reason the rates are so low is because people aren't being officially tested. So it's like a workaround for these people to give low numbers for panic not to arise in socials.
Okay, so I can, I mean, that's disgusting for them to do that for panic reasons. I mean, I think the public can, understand the truth and accept it if it's implemented the right way. And if the truth is that bad that they can't share it with us, then maybe I can understand that. Maybe there is going to be a horrific death toll on a worldwide scale. But with that aside, they should be doing some fucking planning, on the government scale for the real shit that's going to hit the fan. There should be a contingency plan for all of this, because this is unacceptable, for it to be allowed to infect everyone. I understand there's going to be some losses most likely, and that could be the reason why they don't share the exact information. But I want to see some government preparation and action going on, some competent shit like hazmat suits and shit.
We do have a somewhat accurate estimate through the state quarantine. So the state has the ability now to state quarantine anyone if they're showing symptoms or asymptomatic or they think they're infected. And these numbers are actually available. You can look these up. And these are the most accurate estimations we have of infected populace that are showing symptoms. The vast majority of any given population with corona, due to its how it presents itself, will be asymptomatic. So maybe 1/3 of all corona cases are going to be symptomatic, and the other third, the other two parts are going to be asymptomatic. So in Missouri, I think there's 327 people under state mandated quarantine. In California, there's up to 3K under state mandated quarantine, and most states at this point have at least 100 under state mandated quarantine.
So essentially, another thing that we should do is get some HIV medicine, right? Just in case that we get infected, we're gonna get reinfected.
Fucking expensive that shit is.
Yeah, we got to get generic ones, I guess, from fucking India or something. I'm sure you can get generic ones. Fuck the patent rules, man. Get the shit for cheap, pennies on the dollar. If I have to go, we got to do this. I'm serious. I'm actually gonna go.
Where did you get the data on every state having quarantined?
You can look this up. A lot of these news sites are actually just straight up admitting it. So this is common knowledge at this point. Just to look up state mandated quarantined, type in Mississippi or California, you're gonna get the list right there.
Is it crazy that a couple of really smart people that I respect were downplaying this virus quite a lot? Both of them were scientists, or at least professors. One of them is definitely a scientist, a nuclear scientist, and a chemist and a bunch of other shit. The other one also has really great credibility and great knowledge. Why were they playing it down? They did it really well too. They explained why the rate of the rate of spreading, you know, everything. They calculated it, and it came out that it wasn't going to be that bad. But to be fair, the information that they were, you know, they had access to was false. Obviously, the mortality rate is not 2%. Obviously, the rate of spread is a lot worse than the way it is. The numbers were misrepresented and not reported. So I guess it's not their fault. Obviously, the source is the problem here, the misrepresentation of the actual data.
Well, yeah, if people don't want to, you know, believe a certain truth, they'll find any way, you know, cognitive dissonance. They'll find any way to use evidence to disprove that, you know, because it might, you know, destroy their view of the world if they, you know, it might undermine something that is their core of their person. With
Or maybe
those
they're
numbers,
just simply looking at it from a different angle. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, do have. Okay.
I said yeah. But
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, like what it is like, you know, you got to remember like history and stuff, so to speak, or like what I'm saying is that's where I was kind of confused with this whole like conversation, this whole topic where it's going. Like, are you guys talking about like past, present, future, conspiracy theory, whatever? See, me myself personally, like, do you guys remember like when the swine flu was like a big thing, and like it was like, oh yeah, this and that, and then like, you know, here we are years later, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Number one. Number two, I know this is way different, but number two also though is like, you know, I merely find the timing of this from an economic standpoint. Like I look at economic factors, like, you know, everything goes back to money and power, right?
Mhm.
So like this thing, man, has some very, very convenient timing for some very, very economic turnabout, if you will, with the situation with China and, you know, America, so to speak, even, you know, with tariffs and things of that nature. And I'm just saying that like this is like really, really, it's almost, if you look at it, chemical warfare, so to speak, but not necessarily to the people that are affected, you know, that are dying from an economic standpoint. If you just look at the monies, the profitabilities, the look at all the monies, the resources that people, the attention they've paid to, like, you know, the accounts that it's drained just to bring this to light. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I'm just saying, you know, if you look at it from that angle, maybe think about it differently.
Yep, and yeah, also the governments around the world have been incompetent to the point it looks like they're trying to spread it. I mean, they've there's some cases in LA where they this is at the very, very beginning, within the first few days of it becoming a serious issue. China shipped over a Wuhan resident to undergo testing in the CDC. The CDC accidentally released the Wuhan resident into LA for 2 weeks without realizing it. And these occurrences of complete incompetency have been mimicked throughout almost all the world's governments at this point.
Okay, so let's just say that, you know, it's safe to assume that they're not that incompetent, so there was some other ulterior motive behind it. What could that ulterior motive be, and why would they be doing what they're doing?
Well, ultimately, it's money and power for world domination. Whichever way you want to flip the coin, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about, you know, it being a purpose, but let's go down that rabbit hole. I would say to bail them out of the welfare state they've created, because at this point they have more outtakers, you know, through, you know, boomers, and these people are, you know, also there's multiple generations about to, you know, the government's going to have to pay, you know, their pensions and welfare, and our system is not, you know, going to be able to handle this due to welfare states being a pyramid scheme and, you know, the lowering birth rates for almost all populations. And since, you know, viruses usually kill, you know, the most elderly and young, this could be a good way to, you know, combat that, to, you know, regain their quote unquote power or financial wealth.
I see. So it's in a way to prevent a further financial and resource collapse because of the number of old people and, you know, like drain.
Not necessarily to prevent, to conserve it, so to speak.
Yeah. I don't necessarily buy that, because I know based on the technology that we have, we do have the resources to have a lot more people actually on. So this overpopulation thing is actually a load of shit.
But like
it's the debt. The issue is the debt.
You're looking at it from the wrong angle. You're looking at it from an American standpoint. Look at it from a Chinese or a Russian standpoint.
Yeah, their population is, you know, the majority of their population at this point are old people. Since welfare states, you have to have more people paying into them. If these people start, you know, taking out pensions and the money they're quote unquote owed by the government, these governments will go bankrupt overnight. and this could be a way to avoid that.
But one thing that's kind of surprising is that you said multiple countries were being incredibly incompetent to the point that it almost seems intentional. If that is the case, they should be all essentially working together, or they all have the same plan at least. You know, they all have a similar plan to let this virus spread to, you know.
I don't know. That's a very that's something you can only speculate. Yeah, you can't really put anything set in stone.
Oh yeah, I am speculating for sure. This is all just speculation at this point because again, it is unlikely for an organization to be that incompetent, especially for all around the world, repeatedly over and over again. So it's not a bad inductive argument in the sense that there does seem to be something else behind the line, but behind the veil. I mean, but you're right. I am just speculating at this point, but it's interesting. It's fun. It's like, what is the end game? I mean, yeah, population reduction can be, something. It could also be something else. Like maybe this virus has some other code that's meant to be injected in our DNA. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is like the way the AI, maybe AI has taken over already a long time ago, and this is the way it's going to get rid of organic matter. Just goodbye.
2% population reduction.
It's a 7.6%, but
well, it's like a bunch of people say different. I heard somebody say 20% people die from corona, and then somebody says 2% of people above 60 of age die from it.
Well, the really weird thing with corona, it's not age specific. It targets all age groups equally. That's we don't see that ever.
Well, what I will say is I drank beer called Corona tonight, humorously so. I keep buying this fucking beer humorously. Whenever I see it, I just fucking buy it because I can't believe their stock is falling. I guess all the stocks are falling 12%, all that stuff. But Corona, really, people are not buying that because it's hilarious to buy it.
But
I mean, the thing is,
well, number one, let's just hit the nail on the head. It ain't that great of a beer. Two has other
it's not
factors from the country of origin. So there's a lot to play with that.
Well, I always hold my breath when drinking beer because it's a little too strong for me.
Shit.
I hold my breath drinking anything really.
To get back on topic, there actually is one group that we do know of, substantially. We know how they operate and all this, that is trying to spread this very maliciously. So there was a cult in
Israel.
No, there was a cult in South Korea called the Church of Shinji. They're actually substantially financially wealthy cult. It's full on. These people are mentally unstable. The head of the cult thinks he's the second coming of Christ, and he thinks he's from an anime called Evangelion.
What
this guy?
Oh, is that the one? Dude, I love that song. I've never seen the series. I've only accidentally come across this song. I downloaded it because that's great music.
Yeah, but so he declared this as the second coming, and he had some of his cult advocates purposely get infected with coronavirus. He actually the first case of coronavirus in Italy was due to this person actually infecting Italy. So the South Korean government has caught. Yeah, the South Korean government has caught the cult of Shinji shipping people purposely infected to multiple countries and has deemed them as a terrorist organization.
I mean, it's not just them. I'm sure many other crazy organizations out there, maybe even ISIS or shit like that. Terrorists, they could be spreading it around. So this is some crazy shit, and we should not downplay this. This is a bioweapon, from what we understood. This is not a natural occurrence. And for all we know, it could mutate into something far more horrific in the future. And the fact that it's so resilient, it's something to definitely make us worry. And the fact that it can be weaponized and converted into a airborne spray, essentially, and affecting large numbers of areas, it's crazy. We gotta. I don't know what we're gonna do. It's crazy.
Yeah, but actually, there was the Pope. Pope Francis is suspectedly convicted with coronavirus. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I saw that thing.
Dude, I hope he is.
Well, actually, the originator will happen. He went to visit some coronavirus patients in, I believe, a hospital, for religious reasons or something along that. And what happened is, an Asian lady tugged on his arm really hard, and he had to be taken away, for medical treatment because she tugged on his arm that hard. It turned out that Asian lady was actually a member of the cult of Shinji, And so,
Ooh.
if this is true, the cult of Shinji has successfully infected the Pope with coronavirus.
I like the
Holy
cult
shit.
of Chin.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But did you see the video? Like, I saw this just yesterday. It's like Pope Francis is walking through a crowd of people, and there's some Asian pulling on his arm, and he slaps her away. That was hilarious.
Yep.
Is that how he got infected with a cold?
It's not a cold. It just could kill him. Actually,
Well, he is over 60, and he's Italian.
No, it's not. That's not the thing. This is a misinterpretation of how this virus works, or misunderstanding of how it works. It doesn't matter if you're old or young or something like that. I mean, or if you're poor. I mean, that of course does increase it. But even if you're not, even if you're healthy, even if you're a state actor backed by all the best doctors and shit, you'll still probably die. I mean, there are cases of people that were, like, for example, the guy from China, the doctor that, was working on it.
Oh, yeah, he died.
Yeah. Well, what about the minister of, medicine?
The health minister of Iran, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's not just
It's
like,
so
oh,
sad.
shit, I'm gonna get it, and then it's I'm strong, it's over, no big deal.
Yeah. It
Also
literally, it punches holes in your organs.
Oh no, that's terrible.
It's the roundabout way. It makes your immune system where it can't, like I said earlier, it can't determine what is healthy cells and what is infected cells. So it punches holes in your liver and men's testicles. That's why you're getting reports of it causes infertility, and it also causes liver damage.
I just really hope my favorite actor will survive this ordeal.
Yeah. So if it's a bioweapon, if you're wanting to, take out a population and make sure they can't, come back later, that's the perfect thing. You would want to incapacitate them, and the people that survive, you want to make them so they can't properly defend themselves. And not only that, not be able to reproduce. This is like textbook bioweapon with, how perfectly you want to create it.
So let's just say, for just a thought experiment, let's just say shit has hit the fan really bad, and
it's not that bad.
millions and millions of people are dying. Imagine that happens. Do you think
That
it
would be fun.
would be justified to fire nukes at whoever was responsible at that point?
I think people would, if people are going to fire nukes at anyone, they would be China.
Yeah, I'm just saying, is it fine to everyone gather around just nuke China off of existence, because of what they did with the virus?
I would not be surprised if that happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Wait,
Because
wait,
what they released is a bioweapon. And
What
there
would you
has to
not be
repercussions
surprised
for
if
that.
it happened?
If in retaliation, these governments that are on the borderline of collapse, or they are collapsing, as like a send off to the world, we know we're going to be gone. This is our last hurrah. We're going to nuke China.
Who's
I
going
don't
to
think it's going to get. No, I do not think it's going to get that bad. But that is a possibility if it does.
Yeah, but who's going to nuke China? Like in this idea of yours?
Well, anyone who has a grudge against them, and the majority of the world does.
Oh no, it's a funny situation. With them being the suppliers of a bunch of items in terms of the market, it's like, oh, they make the cheap stuff that our market depends upon, or whatever.
Who the fuck cares, man? At the point when millions of people are dying, there's body bags on the street left and right, people are wearing masks, if there's anything left of society. At that point, yeah, you're going to nuke the shit out of the country just for symbolic reason. I'm pretty sure almost all that
I just really hope
going
not
back
too
to
many.
Fundamentals of what's actually happening in Wuhan. I posted in general. It's an image that people in the recording can't hear, but it's an image of Wuhan pollution from NASA satellites, and over the course of basically the coronavirus epidemic in Wuhan. By the way, Wuhan is the production hub of China. It houses something like 10% of all of their production. Their pollution basically went to nothing. Reports are coming in that their coal factories are all of China's production at this point is offline.
See, this is the part that I find very fascinating and interesting in terms of what you want to know about these kind of circumstances, is that it's not so much about the virus, it's about it's kind of like a stock market. The psychology of a stock market crashing, the production going to zero here and there. It's like, I'm worried about the power structure of the world being shifted due to this bullshit.
I think it's already had permanent effects, because China has their economic system off of exponential growth. If their system is based off of, if they stop growing, their economy will collapse.
Ponzi scheme economy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And
Yeah.
right now, since their production, the majority of the production is stopped in Wuhan, which is their financial and production hub, as well as the majority of China. Right now, at this moment, I believe 75 million people are quarantined throughout China, but they've also stopped all domestic flights. They basically stopped all flights in China at this point.
Well, you're like checking in on this quite a bit, right? Data
Yeah.
void. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I have a question about Jesus, keep talking to the other guys while I recover my thought because I'm kind of drunk and trying to remember my train of thought. Sorry.
Okay, so I have a question here. How far could a coronavirus theoretically travel from one point to another through the air? Through the air currents.
It's if it's actually if you say take a piss or it's excrement of some kind, that's up to 100 meters, and coughing is up to 20 to 15 meters. So like coughing, sneezing, the normally bodily fluids are those types are much less compared to fecal or excrement matter.
By the way, have you guys heard about super spreaders?
Let's just say that in a country, I haven't heard about it. Let's just say in a country, the country gets completely destroyed by it, like completely destroyed by everybody's dead. And it's just like a spawning ground for viruses, just like spreading into the air from just the dead, decaying matter. How far would that go? Like just to the neighboring countries or cities?
Yeah, that would happen. That's why actually in Wuhan, you're having specific subsets of sulfurs being tracked like crazy. This comes from burning bodies. They've actually had local incinerators, spotted going 24 hours a day, like having these incinerators can function. They can burn about 2 tons of biomass a day, and they've been going all day. So you actually have to do that if you're going to have an
And
epidemic.
yet people still think the Holocaust happened. That's gonna be
that's my guy. That's my guy right there.
Yep,
Show up.
exactly. Yep. I mean, I'm gonna have to get going here, but it was nice listening to you guys. Too bad my mic wasn't working until now, though.
No problem, man.
Nice to have you, bud.
Nice to have you guys too. See ya. High IQ nibba out.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss that guy.
Mhm. So let's just say somebody didn't do that. Let's just say the virus got so bad to the point that people can't even burn the bodies anymore. So like in a situation like that, what do you think? What do you think? No, imagine nobody can do anything about it. It's like there's nobody left to do anything about it. There's just dead bodies left around. In a situation like that, what's the furthest you think would be the spread? Like across, like how far theoretically?
That'd be fine.
If there's no wind, 200 meters, but if there's wind, it's really hard to tell. Okay, if there's really, optimal wind for this type of situation to occur, maybe a kilometer at most. That's really, really pushing the conditions for that. But
see.
probably it's only going to be in the meters range.
Got it. So it's not as terrifying as I was thinking initially. I mean, it is still incredibly terrifying, but it's not like something that's going to cross between countries, just from air particles, I guess.
But the issue is the asymptomatic variant, the asymptomatic stage is you are about infectious. You have coronavirus. You have absolutely no idea for an entire month almost, and you're completely infectious. And the issue with that is you cannot quarantine. It's borderline impossible to do a proper quarantine. Because if you have one case, then you have to assume that entire area is infected. And even if you do quarantine at that point, you have no idea how far it's spread. So the issue is the travel, how airplanes and public transport has become so accessible. This is going to be the perfect scenario for coronavirus to spread because of the asymptomatic variant. You can't do a quarantine as well as you can't properly track where it is in the population.
And how heat resistant is this? Like, does it like the survival matter based on the time? Of course it does to some extent, but I mean, let's just say it's a hot day, like a Vegas hot day in summer. How would the virus survive there in comparison to like a cold day in Chicago, for example, at winter? Like, does anyone know the difference in, survivability and how far it can spread based on the variation of temperature and, climate, dryness, moisture, and all that stuff?
Yeah, from what we know, it does affect it, but not that much at all. Being extremely cold or extremely hot doesn't affect it that much. In Iran, because it's generally a hot and arid place, the average time it takes to be on a surface is about 5 days, but in most cases, coronavirus will stay on any surface or in the air for about 9. So it does seem to be affected, but not by that much.
Also, the fact that we're right now temperatures are cold, essentially, the northern hemisphere at least. So it's just, and especially in the areas that we're in, the United States, for example, it's cold as fuck essentially in most of the places. Is that like contributing to some extent to the spread? Because I think it is.
Being cold no.
You got any good ideas, like good advice on how to not catch the thing? Like, have you heard of neti? Like the Indian type washing out your nose type thing. Is that effective at all?
I would say no, because if you're doing that at that point, you probably are infected by the time you get that set up. But the best
setup?
way
It's
is
just washing out your nose.
The best way is to if you're going it's probably not in the majority of U.S. places at this point, but it is probably in the majority of big cities in the U.S. at this point. If there's probably
What about
each big city.
Scandinavia big cities? I ride
any
the
big
subway.
city.
Generally,
I ride the subway.
Yeah, that's not good. If you could just wear a mask on the subway when you get home, washing your clothes might also help. But just like if you want to go out and just hang out with some of your friends, don't just be in the house as much as you can. Only go to work. And
I cannot. Well, that's no problem. That's what I do. But I ride the subway, and to be honest, I have no idea if I am sick with coronavirus or if I'm drunk right now. I'm pretty sure I'm drunk.
Well, if you
Thank
hope
God.
for the best, just assume the best. There's no need worrying if you don't have it, then you don't have it. If you do, then worry.
Well, I don't worry a whole lot. I'm fighting man-made spirit, Scandinavian full blood. It's a good kind of opportunity to survive a little weird virus.
Now, how old are you? You're in your 20s?
Yes.
Well, Scandinavia is a developed country, so if you do get it, there's probably a good chance that you will recover. I mean, just boost your immune system right now and try not to
eat
get
a
it as
shit
much
ton
as
of
you can.
vitamin C.
Probiotics.
I love vitamin C. It's so tasty. It tastes just like lemons.
Yeah, because
vitamin C,
it
vitamin
makes your cell
B3.
walls. Yeah, as vitamin C, you actually have to eat a stupid amount. Vitamin C in
Yeah,
small
but
doses
how
does
much
not.
though? Because you piss most of it out if you take too much of it.
You need to eat a ridiculous amount. I was about to explain why. Because vitamin C in small doses does not make your cell walls any stronger, but vitamin C in large to almost overdosing dosages actually
I'm
makes
not gonna
your cell
get
walls
kidney
significantly
stones
stronger.
though,
No,
right?
That's what I was
No.
saying, Data. If you just take like a vitamin C supplement, you'll get kidney stones. But like, have like 3 or 4 glasses of lemon water. Another thing I've heard that is,
Lemon's
and
good.
excuse me if I pronounce this wrong, Reserval. It's something that's found in red grape skin that can also help boost your immunity to it.
But yeah, the best way to do it if you're in a big city is cover up most of your skin, maybe wear a sweatshirt and I don't know, something to cover your face. Those small masks that you see a lot of people in China wearing. It's just you have to minimize the contact between your skin and the potentially infected area you're in.
I was just
Maybe-
gonna say, don't you gotta just look and see what they're doing in China and then do the opposite?
Well, yeah. The thing is, you can't really do anything against it. Like the only way to 100% say, okay, I can go outside and be fine, is to have a hazmat level 3 or above. That's the only way for sure. And the reason why, and most people can't afford that or can't get their hands on that in a reasonable amount of time. So the next best thing would be to do what the Chinese are doing in the general population.
You could do a trash bag suit if you had some sort of respirator and just trash bags and duct
But
tape.
yeah, but the best thing would, in my opinion, is self quarantine. You stay in your house. Work from home if you can. Go out when if you need food. If you need to restore your food stocks or something along those lines, just go outside. Try to make it as fast. Do it late at night when there's less people around. Those type of situations.
Stock up on NSAIDs now. Stuff like Tylenol, all the fever relievers.
Yeah, those are going to be off the
because you will-
shelves. There's nothing going to be on the shelves in a few weeks. The U.S. has already declared a medical shortage due to China's stopping supply, their production's failing.
Would you recommend going to college online right now at this point? Because I was going to go in March. So do you think I should go for online classes right now and just fucking self quarantine just in case it gets that fucking bad?
Maybe just instead you should work and get some money to save up for when you obviously can't go out. I don't know if you're working right.
That's really hard to say because this might be, it might be already, full swing at that point because of how infectious it is. So this might, because what happened in Iran, actually, it went from about, I think I'm going to give you the time frame on this. Iran, it went from 2 reported cases one day. The next day it went to 50 reported cases. The next day it went to 500 reported cases. The next day it went to 2K reported cases. The third day it went to 8K reported cases. It's an exponential increase.
Yeah, exactly. So self quarantine is definitely, as you said, I think it's one of the best things to do, and I think I should start working on that. I don't think interacting with human beings is
But I want to repeat this. If you're in a rural population, you're probably fine. If people are not reporting in sick more than usual, like keep your eye. Okay, is the local school having a lot more people sick than usual? Then probably don't go out as much. But if you're in a rural location, everything's normal. You're most likely going to be fine.
If you live in the United States and you can get a rural piece of property, this might be the time to stock up on camping supplies, ladders, at least the tarp, maybe some 550 cords. I was thinking about water purifiers. You could get a live straw. You could boil water for 10 minutes. I mean, there's just a lot of options.
Go ahead.
So on a realistic scale, how many months do you think it's going to get before we either get a handle on it or it's going to be a shit show?
If we're going to get a handle on it, we're going to need to do this very soon because of the exponential spread in the asymptomatic carriers. If you don't get a handle on that almost immediately after entering your population, it's next to impossible to stop. Because at that point, due to people's local commutes, maybe in or out, maybe they're traveling, at that point you have no idea who's infected and where. And if you would just have to, basically at that point, you would have to instate martial law and mandatory quarantine most of the population. But, due to the U.S. and having, your fucking Second Amendment, hell yeah. But due to that, no one's probably going to comply with that. They're going to see this as not necessary, even if it is quote unquote necessary. So if you don't get a handle on this really quick, I don't see a way to stop it.
So let's just say the government decides to, do a mass quarantine because they have to, and they're going to have to give rations of food because they don't want the people to die. They're staying in their home. How would they go about doing this? Do you have any idea how it would work? Would they do it section by section? Clear a zone out and then make sure nobody goes from that zone to another zone, and then, seal off one area, quarantine it, wait it out. I don't know. How would the government go around doing something like this?
That's really, really hard to say because usually those methods are restricted under security levels. But my best idea is they would go to the big cities and quarantine those first, and do a circular pattern outwards where they would check if there's any cases, reported cases, quarantine that area. Even if there isn't, if it's in a few mile radius, quarantine that area, or at least put it in curfews.
Do you think it's going to be more common in the future to have more online conferences and online video? Everything's going to be more online now because people don't want to commute. I mean, that's probably what should happen because a lot of things can be done online. A lot of office jobs, a lot of shit like that, going to college, everything can be actually done online on a video conference, essentially everything. Yeah. So I think that's one step the government can do is essentially just make sure there's as little commute as possible.
That's what Japan's doing. Yeah, that's actually what Japan's doing at the moment. They've ordered almost all companies to work from home or not work at all. They've also stopped all schools nationwide, and they've stopped their public transportation systems as well.
Well, everyone else should, copy that and do the same thing for sure. It's I think a good method of anything that reduces the percentage of spreading it should be implemented ASAP. And yeah, you said it, at the rate of exposure and exponential rate of spreading, we need to deal with it ASAP, or essentially it's going to be a shit show.
Yep.
Yeah. Damn.
But the thing is, the mutation could be quite beneficial because if it gets more deadly, well, this is actually what happened in Ebola. Ebola, we had no control on it. It was looking like, this is going to be really fucking bad. What you had happen was the Ebola mutated into a less deadly variant and inoculated the population where people developed a resistance to. It kind of burned itself out. This could happen with coronavirus. I deem it unlikely, but possible, where it mutates to either a more deadly or less deadly variant, and it kills the host before properly spreading, spreading as potentially as much as, the less deadly variant, or it becomes completely harmless and inoculates the population. Those are very two realistic possibilities at this point.
Damn. Anyways, I think we've really covered, almost everything about the coronavirus. I think we should have another one
I think
soon.
we've gone over everything.
Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the Tilex think tank and everybody. Sorry about the background noise, but thank you guys for this event. It was great.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Okay, let's jump
All right.
back to the round table.
We'll jump back. Exactly. We'll jump to the other room. Thank you guys.
No problem.
Well, I am sufficiently scared a little bit today. Not scared, but I am, how do I put it? Worried a little bit. That's a better way of putting it. Not scared, but I am a little bit worried for sure. Things have changed to some extent.
How about coronavirus?
Yeah, my understanding of it was so far off. I just realized that I knew nothing. And probably now I probably even know nothing. I just realized that too. So, yeah, it's crazy.